to go next to him, and it's good meeting you.
Yes, sir.
I'll do the best I can with this story. Should air at 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
The colors.
You want the stick mic on? Or? Yeah.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Retire the colors. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you above all others understand the call of service and sacrifice, as demonstrated in the death of your Son, Jesus Christ, on the cross of Calvary. Our sense of honor, courage, and commitment is strengthened when we spend time with you. Our honor is based on the highest ethics that we see in your actions. Your courage calls us to do hard things, and our commitment flows from a demonstration of genuine concern for the mission, our fellow veterans, and our nation. Therefore, we invite you to join us at this celebration of Veterans Day in Edmond, Oklahoma. We ask you to give us faith instead of unbelief, courage instead of fear, and love for you and one another instead of hate. In your mercy, be gracious to us and hear our prayers, for you alone truly live up to our highest aims. Like you, O Lord, we want to be semper fidelis, always faithful. Hoorah, Lord, and amen. All right, please be seated. Thank you very much. All right, so that was the Edmond North Junior ROTC Cadets. This is the last event of all the events they've been doing all week long, so a big round of applause, please. And that was Alicia Vanderschaff of the Edmond Community Chorale that led us in the national anthem. Thank you, Alicia. In case you couldn't tell, that was Lieutenant Colonel retired, Marine Lieutenant Colonel retired, John Preacher Reamer. So thank you, John.
thank you very much for being out here. For those who don't know me, my name is Mustafa Kebrija. For 30 years in the Air Force, I went by Kuja. That's what all my friends call me. I'd be honored if you did the same. This is the 5th year we've been doing a Veterans Day celebration here in Edmond. This is the 3rd year we've been doing it here by the museum in the park. And thankfully the weather held up. I was a little bit worried yesterday, but it looks like we're going to overcome. So thanks very much. So there are 3 plus 1 major holidays where we celebrate veterans in this country. The first of those is Armed Forces Day, and that is the 3rd Saturday of May. That is for anyone that is currently serving in any branch of the military. On the last Monday of May is Memorial Day. That's where we honor any veteran that is no longer with us. And then there's today, Veterans Day, which is the 11th of November every year. And this is where we celebrate anyone who has ever served in the military. The plus 1 is the Military Spouses Appreciation Day, and that is on the Friday before Mother's Day. And I don't know about you, but in my family, my wife makes sure that we celebrate that every single year, and so we do. So one of the things I love about being here in Edmond is that we really take our veteran service incredibly seriously. The city was founded by Civil War veterans on both sides of the conflict. Many of them are buried up over at Grace Lawn Cemetery. We held a ceremony there like we do every year at 10 a.m. in the morning. We've got markers all over town. If you ever kind of walk around, you'll see places like Russell Doherty Elementary right up over there on Boulevard, just to the north of us. Named after Russell Doherty, the first Edmondite killed in World War II. He was a bomber pilot on B-17s in the Pacific. Right over here is the American Legion Post, Post 111, the Frank Collins Post. Frank Collins was the first Edmondite killed in action during World War I. And then right down the street is Edmond Memorial High School. Call that for the 6 graduates that were killed in action during the Vietnam conflict. So if you look all around town, lots of celebrations of veterans over here, and this is just one of the days that we like to go ahead and make sure that we take time to appreciate anyone that has served, and for all of you that have served with us. Okay, so one of the great things about being an MC is that I don't really talk a lot, so all I really do is introduce the speakers and kind of make sure that things are flowing on time. I will cue everybody, like I said before, when we do certain events towards the end. We're going to play taps where everyone will stand up again, and we'll have a musket salute. But one of the first speakers I want to introduce is Jessica Timmerman. So normally on Veterans Day, we celebrate veterans' lives. Memorial Day is when we honor those that are no longer with us, like I mentioned. But one of the issues we don't often talk about is veteran suicide. It is still unfortunately a plague here in the country. Veteran suicide rates are 1.5 to almost 2 times as much as the civilian population at large, especially for those under 45. For those vets that have served, you know, if you serve long enough, you will likely have someone you know in one of your units commit suicide. In my 30 years, there were 2 folks I know that passed away from suicide, and one was a very close friend. I like to remember him a lot. Staff Sergeant Steve Stevens, the radio operator. We deployed to Desert Shield and Storm together. We racked up lots of hours flying, and when that happens, you always ask yourself, you know, why? Or, you know, what did I miss? What more could I have done? What should I have said? And there are no really good answers to those questions other than maybe staying a little bit more alert. Jessica's going to speak to us a little bit today about her nonprofit called The Final Salute. Her brother, Sergeant First Class Zach Brown, died by suicide back in 2022, and she asked herself those same questions and decided to take some action to help families of those who have suffered from that. So with that, would you please welcome Jessica Timmerman.
He's so confident. I'm not. I want to start by thanking you all for being here and showing up today. Oklahoma is truly an exceptional place that values the selfless service of military veterans and their family members. My name is Jess Timmerman. Fun fact, we moved to Edmond on March 11th, 2020. So if you remember that day, we literally pulled into our driveway as the Thunder game let out because of positive COVID tests. Earlier that year, my husband had this wild idea that Oklahoma would be a better place to raise our children than Denver, and immediately with COVID, we saw the differences. So So I want to thank you all for being welcoming and wonderful examples of patriotism for my 3 kids. What qualifies me to be on this stage today with such incredible men is that something terrible happened to me 3 years ago that has changed every aspect of my life. On Mother's Day in 2022, I became a Gold Star sibling. My brother, Sergeant First Class Zachary Morgan Brown, was on active duty in Germany when he died by suicide. He left behind a wife, a son, and a ton of devastated friends and family. In my brother's first deployment unit of 300, my brother was number 10 lost to suicide, and since then there have been 5 more. So that's awful, but if I'm being really honest, like Cujo said, it's a likely outcome for a lot of us in this space. Heroes can break down. Zach wanted to be like my dad when he grew up. He went to college at the University of Colorado in Boulder, which a lot of people wouldn't know about till Deion Sanders decided to coach there. He majored in international business with a Russian minor. College didn't quite work out the way he wanted, and he landed in the Army's infantry as an 11 Charlie Mortarman. He was stationed in Fort Lewis, Fort Benning, Fort Stewart, and Fort Campbell before embarking to JMRC Hohenfels. He saw combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. Zach was approaching 15 years in with making the Army his career. Peers often remark about my brother's incredible leadership skills. I myself have battled how a legendary NCO or squared away soldier could meet this demise. Zach had a rough 6 months before his passing. The systems in place to keep him safe were activated, but systems are just systems and they fail. There can be cool-off barracks. We can train, ask care, escort procedure. We can have best friends that report to chain of command. But systems can never replicate the true connection we weave as humans. I challenge you to think about your barriers. Were you enlisted? Were you an officer? An officer with the enlisted because in life or death situation it could compromise operations. Are you a civilian or a veteran? Has some big bulky Marine moved down your street from you and offered to grab your mail when you're out of town? And are you secretly terrified of him? He just wants to help. These labels that once designed to keep us safe may no longer be working. They are especially ineffective if we are isolating from true human connection. I recently went to Sonita, Arizona on an expedition with the Travis Manion Foundation. They're over there. I didn't go with those guys, but they're people. There were 11 of us. The group was composed of families of the fallen and veterans. We were challenged to build a lean-to for the Boulder Crest Foundation, who work in helping veterans and first responders overcome PTSD. The project was much bigger than TMF expected, and we spent 2 days 3 feet deep in the desert shoveling out boulders in our gloved hands. It was there sweating without cell service that I connected all our dots and realized that our loved ones may have passed, but their souls felt service needed to keep going. At dinner, I sat next to Jess from Charleston. She lost her brother Chris, a police officer who was photographed rescuing a pregnant woman on one of his 5 trips into the towers on 9/11. I learned to cut metal next to Anita. Anita and her husband and young kids were in Utah when the towers fell. Her husband, Juan, remarked, "That's it, I know where we're deploying now." Juan was the 517th casualty in Iraq and the first from their state. Christine is a 69-year-old yogi from San Diego and my accountability partner on this trip. We were in the middle of the desert, so we weren't allowed to walk on our own because there could be snakes or scorpions or I don't know what they were afraid of, but we had to have buddies, so she was mine. After 9/11, Christine's husband John re-enlisted after previously serving in the Navy. Unfortunately, he was processing to deploy at Fort Hood during a violent shooting by a fellow soldier. My brother Zach and I had a rougher childhood. They say suicide happens when a million things go wrong, but I'd be remiss to think Zach's story is not weaving into Jess, Anita, or Christine's. He saw things in his time of service that made pain unbearable. A few weeks before his passing, my brother said to me, "I love the Army, but I hate what it's turned me into." That was not true. That was his pain talking. The 11 of us on the TMF service expedition, by and large, had very little in common except losing a service member. We left this trip forever bonded and changed. That's powerful. Imagine if we took that energy into the world. If there's a stranger next to you, especially in this small military community, I bet you have a connection just waiting to be discovered. Zach did love his country and the Army. I speak to you today to remind you that selfless service never means isolation. Please keep telling your stories so that your legacy lives on. I want to remind you to check in on your loved ones and also check in with yourself. If you're feeling despair, seek more connection. You deserve it. If you leave here and someone is on your heart, please call or text to say hello. I did not mean to bum anybody out. I'm sorry. On a positive note, so it's been 3 years since my brother passed. I had this crazy idea to start a Veterans Day 5K. I approached Cujo about it. He reminded me that 5Ks don't make a lot of money. There's a lot of costs and volunteers. We had our third run on Sunday, even though it was freezing. I believe when the totals come in, we'll have 215 runners, and I think we raised more than $8,000 for the Travis Manion Foundation. So Edmond really shows up for us. And I just want to close on saying thank you all for being here today and letting me share a bit of my experience. We live in the greatest country on earth because of you people. God bless.
Okay. Hey, again, thank you very much for Jessica. You know, again, that just reminds me again, you know, we are all tied together, and I think that's one of the greatest parts of military service is that we do help to take care of each other. You know, so when you do see something, say something, reach out a helping hand. I think that exemplifies not just what we do here in Edmond, but throughout Oklahoma. So again, thank you very much. We do have a lot of veteran service organizations, veteran-owned businesses out here, so please walk around. Just mentioned the Travis Manion Foundation. They do a lot of support work for a lot of veteran families. Please go take a look at them. We've got a lot of other vendors. The Daughters and the Sons of the American Revolution are all here as well. So afterwards, please mill around and kind of go and see some of them. I'd also like to point out that we do have our Edmond City manager over here, brand new to the job, second day in the job, Mr. A.J. Krieger. So I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today. Okay, our next speaker is retired Command Sergeant Major Brian Tyler. He served, 34 years in the Army, field artilleryman, and had tours like most folks, starting with Desert Shield and Storm into Iraq and Afghanistan. One of his assignments was as the senior enlisted advisor for the Deputy Commanding General over at Fort Sill. However, let me tell you, since he retired, he has not been sitting on his laurels out here. I can personally vouch for the fact that he has recently bench pressed 255 pounds and deadlifted 318 pounds off the ground. So we go to the same gym, but he's a great speaker, and I'd like to have him come on up over here today. Do not mess with the Command Sergeant Major.
Well, good evening. I hope everyone's doing well. Family, friends, especially veterans. Thank you for showing up today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the support. So today, on this solemn Veterans Day, we gathered with profound gratitude for all those that have worn the uniform. And if you've worn the uniform, just stand up just for a second. Just stand up for a second. Thank you. Thank you. This year's observance is particularly important in military history. For this year, it's the 250th year of the Army, of the Navy, and of the Marine Corps, which by chance just happened to have a birthday yesterday, the 10th of November. So happy birthday, The Army was founded on June 14th, 1775. The Navy was founded in 13 October 1775, and the Marine Corps was founded in November 10th, 1775. But we cannot forget our brothers in the Air Force and the Space Force as well. These anniversaries are more than just numbers and dates. They represent 250 years of unwavering service and sacrifice and continual defense to this country and the values it represents. Military is a unique commitment that brings the value of immense values to our country and communities in countless ways, and I'd like to point out a couple. Number one, the military is there to defend freedom. It's our core mission. Defend freedom, to give us the rights that we most cherish in this country, like the right to vote, to right to speak our minds, and all the other rights that we get. The other things, instilling values. The military instills core values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. At the same time, these values strengthen not only the military, but as we get out, they strengthen our communities at home, and they bring and build more resilient and better society for all of us. Next would be building character and skill. Service members, they specialize skills, discipline, leadership qualities that carry them throughout their lives. When our veterans return to civilian life, they become more invaluable as assets to the workforce, to our communities, contributing and helping our communities flourish. The next would be fostering unity. The armed forces bring together individuals in every walk of life, and you know this. The purpose transcends the background of politics, our social divisions. A sense of shared mission is what bonds us together, and we make friends for a lifetime that we know people that we served with, and we still stay in contact with them. So, all of you that have served, all your families that support those that serve, today we honor all the veterans that wore uniform of our armed forces. We celebrate the legacy of 250 years of continuous service to this very day. To all our veterans, I say, thank you for your sacrifice, thank you for your commitment, and ensure our nation remains the land of the free. We owe you a forever debt. May we always remember, support their service, their family members, and strive to live up to the ideals that they defend. May God bless our veterans. May God bless our armed forces, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Okay, so a couple of things I forgot to mention is that if you would go over to the Cordelia Steen chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution, for any veteran here in the audience today, they've created these little pins out over here. So if you are a veteran or you have one in your family, please go and get one and display it proudly if you would. The other thing I forgot is a protocol issue, and I'll take the hit on that one, but I did forget to introduce Councilmember Murdoch Nichols, who is here with us along with our A.J. Krieger. So thank you very much. Okay, so our next speaker, before I introduce him, I asked him, is Lieutenant Colonel retired Greg Kent. I said, Greg, I need to know, do you believe in free speech? And he resoundingly said, yes, I do. I said, great, because I need you to give one on Tuesday the 11th, and so he gladly accepted. So Greg is a retired Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Air Force. He is a master navigator with over 3,000 hours. He commanded the 966th Airborne Air Control Squadron, one of the AWACS squadrons down there at Tinker. But even above all that, he is an outstanding military historian. He has gone all over the state talking about all sorts of heroes from the Civil War through the First and Second World Wars to the Cold War. As a matter of fact, he's giving a speech tonight over at Oklahoma Christian at 7 o'clock, but I asked him to speak here, and he said, I will make time to come on out over here today. So with that, please welcome Lieutenant Colonel Retired Greg Akin.
I'm just going to share something real fast, as long as Cujo doesn't hear me. If he asks, I think the answer is auto yes. It's been a privilege to just learn from you and be mentored by you for the last 20 years, Cujo, so thank you for having me. Also, thank you to our hosts and the community that's chosen to recognize and celebrate Veterans Day the way we are today. And to veterans' families, Jessica, thank you. That took a lot of courage to come up and share from the heart. Families, your sacrifice, love, and support before, during, after service is without equal, and it's often without recognition. Some of the most meaningful service is often outside the spotlight, and that's families. And oftentimes, you're dealing with a veteran's physical and mental wounds that demand you persevere even when you didn't ask for it, but you do anyway. That is selfless, sacrificial service. And to my fellow veterans, I appreciate being asked to speak today. I find myself really unequipped to do this, actually, because I understand what service means and what it's cost veterans throughout our history. Your service has anchored this republic throughout the years, 250 years. And so there's nothing like it. There is no service in the history of the world that is like our armed services. Every free breath we have is borrowed against the investment that veterans made in this country. Now, as I sought to try to weave something together, I fell back on one of my favorite characters in the Civil War, and it's General Joshua Chamberlain. He's pretty eloquent, maybe too eloquent for our day and age, but I'm going to read a speech that he gave quickly about 138 years ago to a similar assemblage of people that were celebrating veterans. And I think you'll hear his heart as I read this. It says, "Today we stand and consider an awful arena where character, which was the growth of centuries, was tested and determined by the issues of a single day. We are compassed about by a cloud of witnesses, not alone the shadowy ranks of those who wrestled, but the greater parties of the action, they for whom these things were done." He's talking about us. "Forms of thought rise before us as if in an amphitheater, circle beyond, rank above rank, and these that served are now one. So let us, from this arena, contemplate those that served. But these monuments and ceremonies are not to commemorate the dead alone. Death was but the divine acceptance of life freely offered by everyone. Service was the central fact. That fact and that truth, these monuments and this day commemorate that service. They mark the centers around which stood manhood, steadfast and noble, to the uttermost and to the uppermost. And those who fell, and those who have fallen before or since, or those who linger yet a little longer, soon to follow, all are mustered in one great company on the shining heights of life. Because we were fighting for our country with all that this involves, not only for the defense of its institutions, but for the realization of its vital principles and declared ideals. And our crisis marked not merely an incident of time, but a momentum of force in our nation's life. The fight to preserve it from destruction has a historical, if not moral value, which no one should lose sight of. Of course, fighting and destruction are terrible, but are sometimes agencies of heavenly rather than hellish powers. In the privations and sufferings endured well, as in the strenuous actions of the battle, some of the highest qualities of manhood are called forth: courage, self-command, sacrifice of self for the sake of something held higher. And in great deeds, something abides. On great fields, something stays. Forms change and pass, bodies disappear, but spirits linger to consecrate ground for the vision place of souls and reverent men and women from afar. and generations that know us not and that we know not of, heart drawn to see where and by whom all great things were suffered and done for them, shall come to this deathless field to ponder and dream, and the shadow of a mighty presence shall wrap them in its bosom. For what we had lost and what we had won had passed into the nation's peace, our service into her mastery, our worth into her well-being, our life into her life. And this is the great reward of service, to live far out and on in the lives of others. This is the mystery of the Christ, to give life's best for such high sake that it shall be found again unto life eternal. Hey veteran, he's talking to you. His words are reaching forward 138 years from the past. Service completed through the giving of one's best to comrades, to their mission, to the family, to your community, is the realization of the ideals that set the United States apart from every other country in the humankind. That deliberate act of service, wherever it occurred, beneath the waves, on high mountains, from just mind-numbing boredom or sometimes a sharp action of combat where life and limb could be unexpectedly or purposefully sacrificed, that was your service. And it doesn't matter where it occurred or what your motivation was or how it was received by those who benefited but didn't understand what you did. You served the higher purpose. Yours is the noblest of acts. And it moved our nation from then to here and now and to today. What we enjoy today is the result of the investment of veterans that came before us. So thank you. Thank you for holidays missed, births of children missed, or for mourning comrades lost. You believe that service was more important than comfort. That service succeeded in shielding and encouraging citizens to seek a life's journey where they could go to wherever the best of their ability carried them. Again, unique in all of human history. Veterans gave the best of themselves so we could enjoy the freedom to become the best of ourselves. So here's my challenge to everyone. Is that what we're doing? Are we becoming the best of ourselves? Is that what we see today? Is that what we're experiencing? To all the community gathered, your gratitude and encouragement is incredibly appreciated. It's incredibly appreciated. But that appreciation won't be enough. The Veterans we commemorate today got the United States to here. And that's why we celebrate them on this day. But who's going to pick up the standard going forward? And this isn't some recruiting speech. For freedom can be more effectively defended in homes, businesses, school board meetings, churches than on any far-off battlefield. We saw the North JROTC getting ready to take their stand on the line that we used to defend. So this is a plea for everyone to understand that the freedom that we have was bought at a cost. Don't just memorize dates, but really understand what veterans did and how they did it and what did it cost them personally. Jess just got done talking about having a connection, finding those connections and understand why they did what they did. And then replace that easy slide that affects us all into indifference with a curiosity of what that veteran did and where they served. Because the current veteran's window is closing. My window is closing. Their time on the line is quickly fading. It's time for others to protect that same freedom going forward. Because what we enjoy is not guaranteed. Freedom is always one generation from being lost. And generations that lose touch with the sacrifices of their veterans won't defend an ideal they don't understand or hold sacred. Because it's been said, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. This is my challenge to everyone, is to understand what veterans believe and why they serve. And I'm asking you to invest moments of your time in learning a veteran's belief and ask yourself if it's also yours. As we approach Thanksgiving season, we have much to be thankful for. We are incredibly blessed. And in no short order to all the veterans and their families and their service that we commemorate today. So thank you, veterans, for getting us here. And I'd like to thank you for allowing me the privilege of speaking today. God bless our veterans, their families, and God bless the United States of America.
Right. One of the the things that reminds me of my service and that always gives me great pleasure, I hope you can hear it because I know I can, is the sound of little kids running around, being able to kind of be little kids. And that is a great thing that we get to kind of have here and celebrate all together. Okay, our last speaker today, I want to give time to introduce Miss Amy Stevens. She's the one running around taking pictures of everybody here today. She is the executive director of the Edmond History Museum. If you have never been in there, there's no excuse. It's one of the greatest little things here in Edmond. Just tons of displays about the formation of the town. There's a children's play area, and right now they have an exhibit on the famous, or not so famous even, veterans from the Vietnam War out there on display. Lots of uniforms and articles. But we couldn't have done this without Amy, so with that, Amy, come on up and say a few words.
I'll be brief, but I just want to remind everyone that there's a lot of history in the place that you're sitting right now. This park was dedicated in 1892, and it was just a kind of a playground, a ball field, and something major happened in 1936. Several important things happened. It was right after World War I was over, the Great Depression was going on, and Roosevelt knew that he needed to send people out to build things that make our community better. And there was a lot of nervousness because World War I was over, but it looked like II might be revving up. And so a lot of armories were built, like this National Guard Armory that's now the museum, and the American Legion building on the other corner that was built to support veterans. And you're right in the middle of these two very historic places. I think it's very fitting that the ceremony be held here. As a historian, I'm so fortunate to sit at the feet of many of the veterans here. I've heard many of your stories, and some of them are on display, as Cujo mentioned, in the museum. So please just go through that back door that's open with the brick and go see those when the ceremony is over. Earlier today, I heard Senator Adam Pugh say something that amazed me, if I heard it right, and that is that Edmond has more veterans and more active military per capita than any other city in Oklahoma. Wow. That means we are a blessed city, filled with patriots and filled with a lot of peacemakers. In the great words from Ecclesiastes 3, there is a season for every purpose under heaven, and military veterans and their family members are probably more aware of these seasons than most. There's a time for war, and there's a time for peace. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. And in the 1960s, the Byrds effectively put these biblical words into a song, and you're probably running the soundtrack through your head right now. There's a time to love, a time to hate, a time to laugh, and a time to weep, a time to dance, and a time to mourn. Veterans Day is just one day, but I think it's a season. It's a season of thankfulness right near the holiday of thankfulness. And we're very grateful for the peace and the freedom that our veterans sitting right here today have given us. And I hope that you feel very appreciated today and that you will find some time today to do some laughing and loving and dancing and healing and even listening to some wonderful music which we're about to hear. Thank you.
Okay, before we hear the music though, we're going to do one thing we have not done here before. So if you take a look over at your left, you'll see the Sons of the American Revolution out there. And so what we're going to do is to do a musket salute, and we're going to have one of their buglers play taps. The history of taps started during the Civil War, and originally it was to mark the end of the day. And if you look around most military bases today, if you